Overpowered Amalgam in beta and patch notes? Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Be sure to stick around to see what the changes are and for a power build for roaming and zerging. If you're interested in reading the entire patch notes that I'll be talking about in this video, I will be putting the link in the description below. Also, if you just want to skip to the build, don't worry because I've got you covered with timestamps available as always. Alright, for the first change we have Obliterate. In PvE it's got its damage reduced and its might from strain reduced. In WvW though, we only have to worry about the damage decrease. Amalgam during the beta was overperforming in damage, and this nerf was definitely needed. For the Amalgam fans, don't worry though because it doesn't make the damage of Obliterate too bad. If I didn't read the patch notes, I probably wouldn't even realized. The next change was to Shred. The damage reduction was both to PvE and PvP, but not World vs. World. What was changed in World vs. World was that the skill can no longer be shot behind you. This definitely makes the skill worse and less competitive. Being able to shoot behind you paired really well with its strain effect of super speed, but at least its damage is still good, and it's paired with great strain boons and immobilize. The next one up is going to be Pierce, and no, I'm not talking about Projectile Pierce, I'm talking about the Morph Pierce. All it got was a damage decrease in PvE. In World vs. World, the skill already doesn't deal damage, and is focused way more around stuns and vulnerability. Moving on, we have Demolish. This got a nerf in damage in World vs. World only. This was one of the nerfs of damage I could actually notice. It does a lot less damage and makes me want to swap it out for something else. But the other things that the skill gives is just too good to make it swap outs. It's got some minor healing on its strain and really good stability, and it has 2 finishers. Next up is Thorns. The skill now instacasts. Of course, this is great. It allows you to be able to use the skill whenever you want. It does get nerfs as well though. For one, now the stability is gone. The stability on the old skill was very minor though, only giving 1 second on use. The most important nerf of this was that now the interval of the Thorns is now 1 second instead of a half a second. Instead of being able to hit 12 times during the effect, you can only get half of that, being 6. This is going to be cutting your damage in half, especially in Zerg fights. This can still be good though because it is an area damaging skill. Plus this can do damage while you're using all of your other skills, allowing for slightly higher bursts. The instacast of course also makes this better. Next up we have Evolve, the main mechanic of Amalgam. This increases the cooldown in World vs. World and PvP to 55 seconds, and decreases the duration of strain effects. This makes the burst window much shorter, and makes waiting for the cooldowns much worse. Most fights will be over before the 55 seconds is over. There's a trait you can pick though that allows you to reduce this recharge when disabling enemies. This is very much needed if you want to have a chance at using your Evolve twice per fight. Of course you can also grab double Helix, which is what I like to get because it allows you to have more time for damage, and can let you time it with pushes and Zergs or helping finishing off opponents in roaming. PvE is lucky and gets its cooldown reduced. The next change was to Symbiotic Shielding. This is your heal's toolbelt skill. This change decreases its duration of Magnetic Aura, which reflects projectiles. Still, for this being an instacast skill, it still lasts a decent amount of time. We also have a change to Gaseous States, reducing the duration of the skill and increasing its cooldown in World vs. World and PvP. This skill is still pretty good for a stun break, and it also keeps movement impairing conditions off of you, which would be great if you're going against enemies like Immobilized Druid. The next change was to Plasmatic States. This decreases the damage buff that you get from it, from 15 to 7% in PvE, and increases the damage it does. World v World doesn't get this damage increase though, instead it gets a damage decrease. Most of the time I use the skill mainly for its damage buff and not so much for its actual damage, so this really isn't going to be affecting me too much, other than in Zergs where you don't really have to aim to use the skill in the first place. Even then, the damage decrease is not that large. Next up we have a change to Flux State. This increases the cooldown from 50 seconds to 60 seconds. This puts it on a similar cooldown to most other classes with short cooldown elites, while still being lower than most. I don't really see this making too much of a difference other than maybe in longer 3-way Zerg fights. This next change is just going to be to PvE, making it so stainless steel now converts 2 conditions instead of just 1. I feel like most of the condition traits in PvE kind of need buffs like this, because for the most part it's just going to be useful in open world situations and not actually in group content, because in group content you will be having healers which cleanse conditions anyways. The next change is also going to be just for PvE, and this change is going to be Innervating Alloy. This makes it so its healing is increased, making this trait better for soloing content or just open world for more survivability. Hybrid Vigor is another PvE change, which is again buffing its survivability by increasing its barrier that is given when you're using your morph skills. Honestly, from what I saw during the Amalgam during the beta, it seemed to survive just fine, so I don't know where these survivability buffs are going to be coming from. The next change makes the condition damage increase from Willing Host go down to 7% instead of 15%, cutting it in half. Also in PvP, poison duration was decreased. Seems like the main build that was going around was condition damage amalgam. You're not going to be seeing that from me though, because I'm not a huge fan of Conde myself. Mercurial tendencies also had their cooldown reductions reduced. In World vs. World and PvP, it is now 3 seconds instead of 4. This is a small change, but paired with the change of Evolve that makes the cooldown longer, makes this a little bit worse. Still, it can be helpful with getting our cooldown down to around 40 seconds instead of 55. This just makes it so we won't really be spamming Evolve as much as we used to. The next change was to Silver Lining, buffing it in PvE, making it so the reduction of strain effects is no longer added. This could be why they were nerfing Evolve so much to make traits like this actually viable. This wasn't changed in World vs. World though, and it still seems like taking this trait is more of a nerf than a buff. This could be paired well with Symbiotic Synergy though to spread those boons out between different instances. Also, instead of decreasing the duration of Might with Obliterate, it instead just decreases the stack count. Next up, we have a nerf to damage in PvE when using Symbiotic Synergy traits. Instead of doing 33% more damage with our morph skills, it is instead 10. This is a big drop in damage, but also puts it right along with the amount of damage increase we get in World vs. World. Now for the trait nerf that is probably the worst of all. Double Helix attribute bonus went from 50% to 20% in World vs. World and PvP. No matter how much I missed the old version when I was playing it, it definitely was needed. The damage is much lower than it was during the beta when using this trait. For Zergs, this will make choosing Symbiotic Synergy over Double Helix possibly a little bit more enticing. I will still be sticking to Double Helix though, because I prefer having Evolve during multiple pushes, and that 20% attribute increase is still a decent amount. For the last change, we have a change to Contagious Mutation, or should I say, New Genes, because that is what it's replaced with. This new trait grants Alec and Might to your allies in PvE, and only Might to your allies in World vs. World. Plus, it also grants other boons based on your morph skill that was used. This is mainly going to be the Alec providing trait for PvE. In World vs. World, I don't see this being a trait that to go with unless for some reason you wanted your allies to get very minor amounts of boons. Well, that is the patch notes, so what do I think about this? Well, Amalgam was pretty broken during the beta. These nerfs were needed, though the amount of nerfs that went specifically to Evolve felt a bit much, especially with that being the Elite Specialization's main mechanic, other than of course its morph skills. It got put into a situation where there may be actually trait variation in builds. The traits are balanced with each other in some way or another, which is a great thing. Even with all these nerfs Amalgam got, it still feels very strong in both Zergs and roaming. What do you think about these changes? Good, bad, don't really notice a difference? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. So let's move on to the build. This build will have changes you can do to make it either a roaming build or a Zerg build. This build has incredible bursts, 2 evolves, for better situation control, and plenty of stability. Starting off with the equipment, we have Marauder Stats for that vitality increase along with power damage. For our runes, we're going to be having the Runes of the Eagle. This helps us get closer to our crit cap and land crits most of the time with Fury. For sigils, we have Sigils of Force and Impact. These are great in Zergs as well as roaming, providing extra passive damage increases and allowing you to do more damage to your enemies that are stunned thanks to the Sigil of Impact. For a relic, we have the Relic of the Weaver. This increases our damage by 10% whenever we use our stance skills, which we're going to be having 4 of. Our weapon is going to be a hammer, providing a decent stun along with good power damage, a leap, and a block. To start off our skills, we have Mitotic State for our heal, providing us with great heal over time on a 25-second cooldown. Plus, we can get even more healing when we have Barrier, and our Tool Belt Heal Symbiotic Shielding is an insta-cast barrier providing skill, which is great to pair with our heal to get the most healing we can. Our next skill is going to be Solid State. This is a good stunning skill that also increases the stuns of skills for 5 seconds afterwards. Along with the stuns, it also provides incredible stability, a leap, and a blast finisher. Our next skill will depend on whether you're planning on roaming or zerging with this build. If you're going to take this build into Zergs, you want to grab Plasmatic State for that damage increase and an area damaging skill. If you're planning on roaming with this, then you'd rather take Gaseous States, which is a great stun break and also increases your speed for a short time afterwards. For a kit, it will depend on whether you want to use this for zerging or roaming. Grenade Kit is going to be great for roaming with its range damage and varying conditions, while for zergs, Flamethrower will be better, providing consistent non-projectile damage with great bursts and a CC. Flamethrower can also be used for roaming, but its short range does make it harder to use. For our elite, we are going to be going with Flux States. This is a great pool with great area damage when nearby your enemies. This also has a fairly short cooldown, more than it was during the beta, but still good. Starting off our morph skills, we have Obliterates, for that incredible damage that breaks barrier and great damage increasing strain when using Evolve. Our second morph skill is going to be Demolish. It doesn't have the best damage, but it does have great stability to provide when using our Evolve, plus it's also got some healing and is both a whirl and a blast finisher. Our third will depend on whether you're using this skill in a Zerg or for roaming. For Zergs, you're going to be wanting to take Thorns. It has good passive damage after you use it or evolve. If you're roaming with this, you're going to be wanting to take Shred. This does really good damage while also having a strain that provides you with super speed and quickness, while also being able to immobilize your foes. This is going to be your main mobility outside of your leaps. This can also be used in Zergs if you want for the strain bonuses, but the actual skill will most likely be projectile blocked easily. To start off this build, we're going to be having Firearms. Our first trait is High Caliber, to increase our crit chance when nearby foes. This is especially great in Zergs, but with most of your morph skills being melee, you'll be up close while roaming anyways. Our second trait is going to be No Scope. It buffs Fury and provides you with some production of it. Our third and final trait of this specialization is going to be Modified Ammunition. Even though this is a power build, it has access to a lot of conditions, being good for both roaming and Zergs. We have about 7 different conditions that we can inflict on foes. They may not be on at the same time, but if they were, it's a nice 10.5% damage increase. Our minor traits will be inflicting bleeding, but more importantly, it's going to be producing fury. For our next specialization, we have explosives. If you use grenades, you're going to be wanting to pick Grenader. This increases your blast radius of your grenades to help you land them. If you don't have grenades, I suggest you go with Glass Cannon. This increases your damage by a lot when you're above 75% of your health. Your next trait is also going to be dependent on whether you have grenades. If you have grenades, go with Explosive Temper. This increases your ferocity when hitting with your grenade skills. If you go with Flamethrower, use Blast Shield, which helps with survivability quite a bit. Your final trait is going to be Big Boomer. This increases your damage to foes with lower health percentage than you. This makes it so you can finish bursts off easily. Plus, in Zergs, if you have good healers with you, it'll make you do more damage. Our minor traits also makes it so we inflict more vulnerability and deal increased damage based off of the amount of vulnerability our targets have. For our last specialization, we of course have Amalgam. Our first trait is going to be Stainless Steel for the ability to convert our conditions to boons. This is going to be the only Condi cleanse this build has, and it is enough because we do have 4 stances plus 2 evolves, which makes it so we do have quite a lot of Condi cleanse spread between skills. For our second trait, we're going to be going with Mercurial Tendencies. With the nerfs that Evolved received around the cooldown, we do need to take this to help out with it. This build doesn't have too many stuns, but any little bit helps. Our final trait is going to be Double Helix so that we can use Evolve twice. Having 2 evolves is just so great because of how many buffs that it can give. In Zergs, you can use evolves with each push, and in roaming, you have plenty of super speed and stability with it. Our minor traits are going to be giving us increased survivability as well as increased damage after using our morph skills. Now it's time for the commentary, and one thing I want to mention beforehand is that I have a really hard time using Shred, and sometimes that leads me to just standing still for a while. Alright, in this fight I see that there are 2 blue here. First I'm going to be going in on this Luminary with my grenade skills and evolve doing really decent damage. I miss my morph skill, but I do land my solid state and then continue to deal damage with my morph skills. The other blue comes in, I'm just trying to deal as much damage as I can. I use my evolve and then my shield for the vulnerability that it inflicts. I then use my elite to try to pull them in and then use my grenade skills doing really good damage. I use my hammer 5 trying to stun them and then using obliterate. I use my heal and tool belt heal to top off and then use shred for really good damage. Continuing on with my grenades, getting him down pretty low. He goes invulnerable and then I start to chase using my solid state, barely missing him with the stun. I still continue the follow though with my hammered leap, landing some damage with my morph skills, and then using evolve off cooldown and stunning with my hammer 5, dealing okay damage. I then run out of the trees because it's very hard to actually fight inside of the trees. I use my heal again and then land some grenade skills, and use shred to finish off this luminary. While finishing him off with the fancy finisher, I'm also looking around to try to figure out where the other luminary went. I find out that the other luminary ended up waypointing off. Amalgam has really good sustain even in builds that are not built around survivability. 2 blue trying to capture a camp. Well, we can't let that happen. I use my evolve and head in with my solid state and my stun on hammer 5. I burst them down in seconds with my hammer 2 and my grenade 2. I continue to head over to the luminary trying to deal damage as I can with my grenade skills and my morph skills. I get him down really low to 7% and then continue to follow. My core necro teammate comes in and distracts the luminary while also bringing in a gale shots. I try to stun the luminary with my hammer 5 and then also make sure the virtuoso doesn't revive. I head in using my heal skill and solid state and then continue to try to deal damage with my morph skills. I then land a good shred on the luminary and get him down. Completely down, the virtuoso also gets finished. So I continue to make sure the luminary stays down while also trying to hit the gale shot when possible. I disengage the fight for a minute just to see what's happening here. I see that there's a gale shot and my teammate is a core necro, so I use my evolve now off cooldown and head in using my hammer 5 to stun. I also then follow with my solid state, and it's really hard to keep up with the gale shot, though I do land a good obliterate and continue to chase. With the gale shot going in and out of invisibility, it's really hard to keep up, and I kind of want to leave this fight just for my teammates. So when the gale shot goes around the corner, I do decide to leave this fight for my teammate, and instead just revive the supervisor. After a little while, I come back from the sentry noticing that this is now a 2v1 fight again. So I head in attacking this luminary and bursting him down as quick as possible, and getting him down right away. I then continue to follow the gale shot when he goes out of invisibility to try to help get him down. I land a good obliterate and then get stunned, though I use my evolve again and then continue to chase using my grenade skills when possible. I also used my block for some vulnerability to inflict on him, and then continue chase again. Gale shot is definitely capable of kiting very well. I try to use my solid state but missing again. He does a spear leap and it's perfect time for me to use my hammer 5 and getting him down while he's in stealth because of the pulsing area damage that skill has. We then finish him off by just DPSing him down. While trying to take out the sentry, I notice that the Harbinger is coming up, so I use my shred, landing some damage but mainly wanting to back up. I start using my grenade skills while just walking away, and the Harbinger walks straight into them, and that lands really good damage on multiple of them. He realizes that and then starts to back up, so I use my evolve and head in with my hammer 3. I try to pull him in and then use my hammer 5 for that stun. I miss my solid state and then use my heal and then continue to follow, using shred for okay damage along with obliterates, and my spinning hammer morph. I also use my block skill trying to inflict vulnerability on him, and then land my hammer 2, getting him down and finishing him off. Even though Harbinger is pretty tanky, Amalgam still has enough damage to deal with it, along with good survivability. This fight will be against a green conduit, which also has food and enhancements. First I start off by trying to stun him, and I do land my solid state, getting some damage also with my hammer's leap and my hammer too. I try to use evolve but get stunned. I use my evolve without being stunned this time and use my heal and try to pull him in with my elites. I land a good obliterate and then use the rest of my morph skills trying to deal as much damage as I can. I use my evolve and then start using my grenade skills, landing really good damage. I then go into my hammer and land my hammer 2 and 3, dealing really good damage and finally finishing him off. Having so much super speed and stability in evolve is just so nice in fights. The duel initiates and then I head in using my hammer 5 and my solid states, stunning him both times, but he gets enduring pain, that way he's invulnerable to all damage. I then head in using my shred, dealing really good damage and landing a nice grenade too, though the next grenade gets soaked by his heal. After his heal wears off, I then head in again using my grenade skills and my hammer leap to leap in. I use my elite to pull him in and stun him and dealing really good damage. He goes invulnerable again, and then I use my heal to try to survive. After going out of stun, I use my solid state, landing it on him but not actually stunning him. But I do land my shred and my obliterate, dealing really good damage and finishing him off. I say that win was just because I had my embiggening tonic on. Makes me super slow. The last fight is also a duel against the same guy. I use my hammer 5 and then head in using my solid state, though he leaps behind me and I miss, using my grenade skills trying to land any damage. He continues to follow and then I turn back the other way. I use my evolve and try to pull him in, but it doesn't quite work. Now I'm just running back and forth pretty much, not really doing much. I use my morph skills and my shred messes me up big time. I get stunned, so I stun break and then use my heal and my tool belt heal for healing, and then I use my evolve and swap to my hammer. I then land my hammer 5 stunning him and then he goes invulnerable. I use my solid state stunning him again and then use my hammer 3 as he walks away, dealing really good damage, then swapping to my grenade to land some more damage. I then start to walk away but then start getting stun locked by him. But thankfully, my poison damage of 300 per tick actually gets him down. I'm very surprised by how long the poison lasts in a power build. Anyways, those were some pretty fun duels. I dueled them for about an hour and winners kept going back and forth. Always fun to have similar skill level duels. Overall, Amalgam still feels really strong after all of the nerfs, having strong stability, stuns, damage, and survivability. It only really lacks in mobility, and even then it still has a good hammer leap and 12 seconds of super speed in between the two evolves with double helix. I'm sure there's probably many ways to make this build better, possibly with Sigils of Paralyzation to further improve the stuns that Amalgam already has. If you have any ideas on improving this build, drop them in the comments below. Also be sure to let us know what you think about Amalgam in its current state. Consider giving this video a thumbs up or subscribing to see more from me in the future. Thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you in one of these, and have a great day.